Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Teachers for Teachers. That's you, mom and dads. I'm Dr. Dejana, and I'm here with Dr. Leah. Hello, Leah.
Hello, it's so good to see you.
Great to see you as well. And it's Friday. Today is Friday. We made it through another week, and we have the weekend to look forward to. And specifically today, I'm super excited because we're going to share some really cool, fun activities and just some fun stuff that you can do with your family.
We are indeed. I'm excited. I'm running out of space to plant things, but I am going to continue this weekend. I've got a couple more trees to put in the ground. But I also am really excited about today because whenever we're doing professional development or I'm talking to teachers, I talk about Griffin Ed and the music that Tim Griffin has done. I think every school should play it like music in the background. I play it constantly with the kids in the car because it is great music and it's constant information that a lot of it they won't even know until years later. They'll be sitting in science class talking about eukaryotic cells. They'll think, wait a minute, I know this. And they'll know it because it's been ingrained in them through music. So I'm really excited to bring that into the conversation today. Should we just go right ahead and bring in our panel?
Absolutely. So, first up, we have Tim Griffin. Again, welcome and so excited that you're joining the conversation today. Tim is a retired STEM teacher, an award winning singer, songwriter, and storyteller, and the founding director of Griffin Ed, a nonprofit team of educators, musicians dedicated to raising academic achievement in STEM and other subjects through the fun of educational music. Welcome, Tim.
Go ahead and say hi, Tim, so that the folks can see
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to be here again.
Awesome.
You hearing me
Cool.
okay through the mic?
you.
We're hearing
Everything's
you
good.
loud and clear, loud and clear. Next, we also want to welcome
Oh,
Dr.
it's locked up.
Marcella Klein
Oh, good.
Williams.
Okay, my screen froze up for a minute there.
Okay, I think we're good to go. Dr. Marcella
All
Klein,
right.
an accomplished leader and educator and well known in both formal and informal learning environments. Dr. Williams is a frequent speaker on issues of equity, and she currently serves as the STEM director of Oxnard College. Welcome, Marcella. Please say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be here.
Awesome. Also, we're welcoming Anne McMullen. Anne is an accomplished and respected education consultant who's based in Los Angeles. She's the project director of COSIN Empowered Superintendents Program and author of Life Lessons in Leadership. Welcome, Anne. Go ahead and say hello.
Hi, Dejana and Lee. It's great to be here. I can't wait to hear Tim perform. This is so exciting. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Awesome. We're also welcoming a fellow teacher, Jamie Wagner. Jamie is a fifth grade teacher and math specialist at her school. She has a triple master's degree in psychology, education, and marriage and family therapy. Welcome, Jamie. Please say hello.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you, everybody.
Cool. And last on our list, we are welcoming Dr. Mark Riddle. Mark has a PhD in sociology from the University of California and currently serves as the University Director of Educational Effectiveness for the West Coast University, an institution dedicated to educating healthcare professionals. A big welcome to Mark. Please say hello.
Always good to be here on Fun Friday.
Indeed.
What an amazing panel we have.
So I think we should get right into some music, shouldn't we? Because I think Tim will talk through part of the development of this, why he's doing it, and what the impact has been.
All right then. I'm just going to start. I think it's easier to show you than to tell you. I'll talk a bit about what I do at Griffin Ed when I go to visit schools, which obviously is not happening right now. We're working on adapting it for the virtual classroom, some of our programming. But meanwhile, let me show you something that came out of a songwriting residency in a second grade classroom. We do projects with kids and teachers where we help them to write songs about the stuff they're studying, so the kids become experts in the topic, and also they have a lot of fun doing it. So here's an example, and we always write to the tune of another song when we're writing with kids, so they can sing it when I'm not there to play with them. So you'll probably recognize the tune to this one. So the standard we were looking at was measurement and units, which is a big thing in second grade. 12 inches in a foot, 3 feet in a yard, 5,280 feet in a mile. Child, it isn't so hard. 16 ounces in a pound, 2,000 pounds in a ton. So great, 128 fluid ounces in a gallon, my son. You know the USA, Liberia, and Myanmar. Those are the only 3 countries ain't metric so far. 8 fluid ounces in a cup, 4 cups in a quart. They're fabulous for fractions because they got more factors than the metrical sort. A pint's a half of a quart, a cup's a half of a pint. Just find the factors of the ounces or the inches and divide them up fine, based on composite numbers for dividing with ease. But the kids are gonna cry when they try to memorize all these. Yeehaw! Well, thank you. So the thing about that song is I didn't really write it. It was written by a classroom of second graders with guidance from the teacher and with me there to help them with the organization and the meter and the rhyme. But all the content and vocabulary was coming from the kids, because the point is not for me to go in and have the kids watch me write something. The point is to integrate the arts into the academics in a way that requires the kids to do a lot of analytical and synthetic thinking, where they need to figure out, okay, the teacher gives us a topic. In this case, it was units and measurement for what we call standard units, which is a little arrogant now, given that there are only 3 countries that haven't made metric the official thing. But it's still, as long as it's a standard, the kids need to learn it. So what we did with the kids was we did a pre-writing activity where we did a bubble chart on the board, or whatever you want to call it, a circle map, a thinking map, a brain web, or whatever. And we figured in the center, okay, measuring and units. And we started talking about, up here in the corner we put mass, over here we put distance, down here we put volume, and figured out what the units were. Then we found some rhyming words for each of the terms the kids were expected to know. And then we had the kids start writing some simple couplets using that vocabulary. We didn't worry too much yet about whether it rhymes or whether it has a beat to it, because we can fix that later. And once the kids had a pretty good draft going, then I helped out as a musician. I made it scan, I gave it a beat, and the kids had some ideas for tunes. Sometimes we use the tune the kids want. Sometimes I have to do a different one because this one just fits better. And what I noticed when I was choosing a tune was, as I read the units out loud, I was thinking, okay, 12 inches in a foot, 3 feet in a yard, 5,280 feet in a mile. And I remembered the old tune from the Dukes of Hazzard, and I was thinking, 12 inches in a foot, 3 feet in a yard, 5,280 feet in a mile. Child, it isn't so hard. So from there, it just kind of writes itself. And like any other craft, it does take some practice to get the hang of it. So, I'm always happy to help out with that stuff if a teacher wants. But really, the basic skill is no more complicated than writing a 5-paragraph essay about something, because all the resources you need to get to study meter or to find rhyming words, they're all free online. So I'm not really doing anything that difficult. It's just a way to integrate the arts into instruction. Now, would you like to hear another example?
Love to hear another example. And I'd also just like to say that those kids who write that song and learn that, they're never going to forget those measurements.
Yep.
That's in their head. It's like, for me still, when I have to remember, is it 30 days or 30 days, half September, April, June, and like your mind goes right back to those verses.
Yeah, I mean, since the days of the Iliad, the Odyssey, Beowulf, all these things were poems and songs long before we ever were able to write them down. So when people tell me that what I'm doing is innovative, I kind of have to laugh, because compared to what I'm doing with this, the wheel is a fad. So anyway, let's do a different one. So here's a third grade classroom. Let's do math again. A third grade classroom, they were doing angles. And there's a lot of vocabulary for that. They need to know, obtuse angles, acute angles. They need to know about intersections. There are definitions that they need to know. So this one, we actually were able to use a tune that the kids suggested. So there are three angles we can see. The small ones are acute. Each right angle's 90 degrees. The large ones are obtuse. I will measure everyone, determine the degrees. Each line or segment, intersection, my protractor and me. Angle man, gonna measure them all with me. A mathematical destiny, angle man. Whoa, there are three kinds of angles we will find. Angle man, acute, obtuse, and right. We're gonna measure them day or night. They're in every polygon. Angle man. Every time two rays or lines or segments intersect, there is an angle you will find. There are three kinds I checked. Acute, each right angle, 90 degrees as in a square is the only kind that's right. It acute is less, obtuse is more, so measure them all right. Angle man, gonna measure them all with me. A mathematical destiny, angle man. Well, there are three kinds of angles we will find. Angle man, acute, obtuse, and right. Gonna measure them day or night. They're in every polygon. Angle man, gonna measure them all. Gonna measure them all. Angle man. So it is not an artistic masterpiece, but in some ways, when it's just, really crazy like that, it's even better because it sticks in their heads. And imagine, if a kid hears that song 5 or 10 times over the course of a year, it's going to be stuck in there pretty solid. I'll tell you a true story. I once was shopping at a supermarket in a neighborhood where I had been a teacher for 18 years. And this great big hairy Armenian man saw me in the produce section. I did not recognize him, but he recognized me. And he comes up to me, and he's about 6.5 feet tall. And he leans over the bananas and puts this finger like a hot dog right in my chest and starts singing a song at me about the water cycle that he had written in my classroom when he was 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, you must have been in that class. He said, yeah, I'm Armenian. And I said, oh my God, I hope I was nice to you. And he said, well, you were okay. Oh. And I asked him, when was the last time you sang that song? He said, 3rd grade.
And he just remembered it.
But it was still there. So that, and that's what music is supposed to do when we do it right. So ultimately, if we can make it fun, cool. But the real proof in the pudding is, can we use this to help the kids master the standards in a way that we can measure? And we did do a study with 170 kids in 7 different classrooms at an elementary school, and we were able to show that in 7 out of 7 classrooms, we were able to document a significant increase in their test scores on the topics that we were doing. And those were for kids who had not even done the residency. They were just singing songs that other people had written.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
and
so
do you don't need to be a musician to do this?
No, you don't. This is ukulele, right? I've done workshops for the Los Angeles Public Library, which, by the way, now has ukuleles available for checkout, if you can say it correctly. and working on setting up an online one for them. And if you can do 3 chords, then you can do this. Particularly for the teacher, you don't need to be great at it. Just the fact that you're doing it at all, the kids are going to be delighted. If you can strum 3 chords on one of these things and maybe even write some words with the kids, they're going to think you're a genius. But you're not. You don't have to be. And goodness knows I'm not. I'm really not a professional musician. I play 4 or 5 instruments, just barely well enough to get by. But I have friends who are real musicians, and they're sometimes they just go ahead and on the album they'll go ahead and re-record my parts without me because they get tired of waiting for me to get it right. And my song, I wrote that song, but they just do it better than I do because they're professionals. Well, let's see. Do we have time for another?
Oh, we have time for another, and we have questions.
Oh, okay. Well, we want to do questions first, or do you want to hear one more song?
Let's do one more.
All right, then. This is for 8th grade. It was 7th and 8th grade. This actually came out of a lunchtime workshop where I was just sitting having some sandwiches with middle school kids. And they're doing ancient history. They're studying ancient Egypt. And they wanted to do a song about that. And so I said, well, what about like the politics or the irrigation? What should we do? And they said, no. We want to write about how they made mummies. So that's how this song came to be. Tutankhamun was a pharaoh of the land along the river, and when he died, his people dried his stomach and his liver. His lungs and his intestine went into the salt of natron, then stored in 4 canopic jars, each with a godly patron. When a pharaoh died, he'd be cut and dried, his body mummified, his organs in a jar. So they put a hook into his nose and gently drew his brains out. Be careful where you put them or you'll never get the stains out. They dried him out for 60 days. It was a lot of work. He might once have been a mighty king, but now he's just a jerky. When a pharaoh died, he'd be cut and dried, his body mummified, his organs in a jar. When he was done with desiccation, they removed the salt he'd been in. They wrapped him up in resin and 100 yards of linen. They laid him in a coffin and sarcophagus to rest in, with jars to hold his lungs and liver, stomach and intestine. When a pharaoh died, he'd be cut and dried, his body mummified, his organs in a jar. So they sealed him in a secret tomb with charms and wards and curses. He lay there through 3,000 years and far too many verses. The pyramids were plundered, but the secret tomb was smarter. We might have never found him if it weren't for Howard Carter. When a pharaoh died, he'd be cut and dried, his body mummified, his organs in a jar. And when a pharaoh died, he'd be cut and dried, his body mummified, his organs in a jar.
Thank you for that, Tim.
My pleasure. I had to keep dropping my pencil. I was laughing so hard while the kids were talking to me about that.
I bet. Now, what about mom and dad? Is this something that could be done at home?
If you want to, sure. I mean, it is a lot of work. The main thing I want to emphasize is, as much as possible, it should be a lot of work for the kids, not for the teacher, not for the mom and dad, because one thing I try to avoid doing, and this is an easy pitfall when we're talking about STEAM, is we can make it feel like we're just handing the parents or the teacher one more big project for them to do for the kids. And I think this is one of the biggest pitfalls we need to watch out for when we're integrating the arts into education, because teachers don't need more work to do. parents don't need more work to do. Make the kids do the work. And if you can't set the project up in a way where the kids are doing at least 80% of the work, then it's not a very good project.
Boy, you're making such a good point. And Jamie has a question, but just before the stream today, Dejan and I were talking about the International Day and how much prep work the parents had to do for that.
Yep.
And we had already decided we were assigning that prep work among the children.
Yes.
Jamie, what was it you wanted to say?
First of all, I think Tim's songs are fabulous. I totally agree that students learn better when they can remember things. I tell my students a story every year about how when I was 15 and in 10th grade biology, our final was to walk around the room and look at dissected frogs that had various parts of their internal organs tagged. And we had to write the names on, and I do not like dissecting animals. I did not enjoy this, but I made up a song from the top of the frog to the bottom of the frog. And to this day, when I'm in my I still remember how at least the first 6 parts of a frog, and I tell you, it has never been useful to me ever in my entire life. But
I want to hear it right now.
I sing it to my students every year because Milo, hyoid, deltoid, anconeus, pectoralis, external, oblique. That's where I stopped. But I had the whole frog down. So if you can do that, and I find that with my students, we often will make up songs based on a song they know already. So I'll get the instrumental version because I am not a musician and can barely carry a tune, as I just demonstrated. So we use something that's already there. And then I think one thing that parents tend to struggle with that teachers get pretty good at is breaking something down into parts. So just like the beautiful songs you sung, each stanza or each paragraph there has different pieces of information. So if you have a group of kids, you break it up into groups. You guys do this part, you guys do this part. And as long as they have this song that works, they can get it together. So if parents remember that you can assign kids, on Monday, you're going to write the first stanza and here's the topic, here's the song, then you break it into smaller bits. I think oftentimes parents are overwhelmed by the scope of something and not realizing that you just break it into smaller eatable parts. The old adage of how do you eat a whale? One bite at a time.
Yep. And oh, please.
Dejana has a question.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with Jamie as a classroom teacher. This is, Tim, seriously, I love everything about this. But I agree. And one of the strategies that I was a little overwhelmed with when I tried to do song writing in my class is I looked at my big list of content and vocabulary words and everything that I wanted to put in there. And I just kind of had to just scale that back a little bit, and let some of those things go so that this process, and when they wrote their song, that it wasn't overwhelming. So what you were saying is breaking it up into small little bits is super helpful for the kids. I still remember this song. I think I took it off of the internet about the cells. They're made of organelles. Try and pull a fast one. The cytoplasm gels. The nucleus takes over, controlling everything. And I have kids in college, when they see me, they're like, cells, they're made of organelles. So, I mean, it's so powerful and easy. I want to make a song at my house for like chores and responsibilities or something. I don't know. So that they'll remember and I won't have to constantly remind them. Just saying.
Yep. Well, and one thing I wanted to follow up on what Dejana and Jamie were both saying is that, the idea of breaking up the task, this is also, it's not just about the content that they're learning, it's also about the writing process, because any large writing project is going to be overwhelming unless you have a methodical approach to it. So you got to figure out, okay, what's my, now in a song, I might talk about having a hook, but in prose, we call that a thesis. And a song might have 3 verses. Okay, you've got 3 big supporting ideas for your thesis. And a song, you might have the little rhymes and the little catchy things, but you're going to need the details in prose as well. So again, the more of that you can put on the kids, the more it's going to prep them for writing generally. And one of the things I've had, one of the more positive feedbacks I've had from teachers with whom I've done songwriting residencies, is that they tell me that not only are the kids having fun and learning the content, but their writing skills generally are improving. Now, that's a lot harder to document. It's a lot easier to do a quiz and see if the kids remember all the vocabulary for the units that they were supposed to learn. But it's always harder to positively say, yes, the kids are better writers now. But we do have a lot of anecdotal feedback that is happening.
Well, and look at the number of disciplines that are included in this. So there's English literature and writing. There's math in timing and setting it up to the music, and the creative composition. And then whatever the actual content is. So I love any time we cross the disciplines and we're working with many at one time.
Yep. Yeah, that's what somebody asked me. You know how you fit 10 pounds of potatoes into a 5-pound bag? You mash them.
Good point.
So that's what we're doing with the standards here.
Right. How did you get started doing this, Tim?
I actually paid most of my way through college and graduate school singing in a couple of really terrible bands. And so when I got to be a teacher, I just brought my guitar in and we did some of the old schoolhouse rock songs from the 1970s. And then I'm thinking, well, I wrote some lyrics for a band. Let's try this. And we started, drafting some simple songs together with the kids, and then doing it on my own. And that slowly grew into a second full-time job over the 18 years that I was teaching. And so at this point, I'm working on my 5th album, and we've won some awards. I'm getting invited to, I'm doing a show next week that is supposed to be happening in Pittsburgh, but of course we're doing it all online. And so a few years back, I just realized, okay, I'm spread too thin here. I need to either step back from the music or lean in. And so I lined up some funding from some very generous supporters and started up Griffin Ed. And so my goal is to just serve as a resource to all the teachers out there who recognize that this is a useful tool, but don't really have the confidence to do it on their own. So I can come in as a resident, or they can just contact me and say, hey, have you written a song about the periodic table? And I'll say, well, not yet, but let me try. And so it's to provide a good study tool for teachers and for kids.
I am so glad, for one, that you decided to lean in and do more of this, because I've listened to every song that you've recorded at this point, and I'm really excited by the educational value in this. And I mean, Tim, because I've had you come to a couple of PDs to talk to the teachers. It's so exciting for teachers to hear this, because it doesn't cost extra money. It's very basic and simple, and you don't have to be a musician. It helps if you're talented, but if you can bring out the talent in the kids, then it's not. I think Jamie has a question too.
I just wanted to add too that as we go back into the fall and so many of us are starting remotely, this is a great activity for breakout rooms. You create breakout rooms, put them in those different rooms, assign each breakout room a different section to be working on whatever the topic is, or give them all the same topic and have them come up with different stanzas and then put them together and see how do they approach it differently. What were the commonalities? What parts of the class really have down solid? And then what parts are we maybe learning a little bit from somebody else? But this is a great, great virtual activity, I think, too.
Mm-hmm.
And Dejana, I saw you had a question.
I was just going to say exactly what Jamie said. I think we're both classroom teachers, that as we look at distance learning and remote learning, this tool is going to be so powerful for teachers to maintain the engagement and playfulness of learning. So I really think what you're sharing here is so timely, specifically locally, where a lot of us here in my county where I'm at are learning that no matter what, we're going to probably be starting off in distance learning. For us to reimagine what engagement might look like. And also teachers are being pushed into their creativity. So this is also an opportunity like, well, let me just try this out. Even if it's outside of my comfort zone, this is the time to do it. So Tim, I'm glad you were on this, I guess 5-10 years ago, but we really needed you because we never knew we were going to be in this moment. And so I just think, thank you for providing such an amazing resource, not only for teachers, but to transform how kids experience learning. And that's what we want. We want them to love learning. And this is what bringing music into the mix does. So
And just before we say goodbye, let's also let everybody know that griffined.org, is that right, Tim?
Yep.
griffined.org. The music is available. It's wonderful if you give a donation, but Tim has made it free for everyone to download. And there's just such great music there. The kids will love it, and it won't drive you crazy in the background. At least I'm only partially crazy, and I can't blame it on the music. So thank you, everybody, for being with us. Dejana, you want to say goodbye to everybody and thank our band?
All right. What an amazing conversation we just had. Thank you so much for the entire panel, and thank you to Tim. This was another episode of Teachers for Teachers. That's you, moms and dads. I'm Dr. Dejana, and I'm here with Dr. Leah, and we will see you next time.
Bye now.